The tribunal chamber smelled like burnt ozone and regret. Ambassador Krell of the Vothani Collective sat across from Dr. Maya Torres, Earth's chief anthropologist, and tried very hard not to look at her teeth. Those flat, grinding molars. Those disturbingly sharp canines. The whole arrangement screamed omnivore with opinions, and Krell had learned to fear that combination. Dr. Torres. Krell's translator rendered his chittering into something approximating patience. We have reviewed the incident logs from Outpost 17. 43 wounded. Structural damage exceeding 2 million credits. And according to multiple witnesses, your security officer, Lieutenant James Okoye, accomplished this with his bare hands and what he d. Quote, minor irritation, end quote. Maya leaned back in her chair, that predator-relaxed posture that made every species in the room unconsciously shift away. She was smiling. Why was she smiling? 43 Kryn raiders, she corrected, her voice carrying that particular human quality that suggested she was enjoying herself far too much. Armed Kryn raiders, who initiated combat on a civilian station during dinner service. That is not in dispute. Krell's carapace flushed violet. What concerns this council is the disproportionate response. Lieutenant Okoye put 7 attackers in medical suspension, shattered reinforced bulkheads, and apparently, I am reading this correctly, yes, threw a raider through 3 decks using only his legs. He's from Lagos, Maya offered, as if this explained anything. They take their football seriously. Councillor Thim, a Persidian whose species had achieved peace roughly 4,000 years before discovering fire, made a sound like wind through a broken flute. Dr. Torres, please. We summoned you here because the galactic community is frightened. In the 3 years since humanity joined the coalition, there have been 612 incidents involving human excessive force. Your species represents 0.003% of coalition population, yet accounts for 47% of all combat-related injuries. Defensive combat, Maya interjected, examining her fingernails with studied disinterest. Krell noticed they were painted red. Of course they were red. Humans were not subtle creatures. The semantic distinction provides little comfort to those in regeneration tanks. Krell snapped. Just last cycle, a human merchant, one Isabella Kemp, disabled an entire Horthax boarding party. There were 20 of them. She used a cargo loader and what she described as aggressive parking. Maya's smile widened, showing altogether too many teeth. The Horthax were attempting to confiscate her shipment of coffee beans. Isabella takes her morning routine very seriously. This is precisely what we mean. Thim's crystalline structure pulsed with distress. Your species treats violence like a recreational activity. You have a phrase, I believe, talk softly and carry a big stick. Most species talk loudly and carry no stick at all. We evolved past such brutality. Did you though? Maya's voice dropped, losing its playful edge. The temperature in the room seemed to drop with it. Councillor Thim, your species achieved peace by developing telepathic consensus. You literally cannot conceive of individual violence because you're all connected. Councillor Krell, the Vothani eliminated aggression through genetic modification 16 generations ago. You're asking me to explain human behavior through frameworks that have no applicable reference points. Krell's mandibles clicked nervously. Then provide us with references we can understand, Doctor. Because from our perspective, humanity is a powder keg with a shorter fuse than we're comfortable with. Maya stood, walking to the chamber's viewing port where the station spun slowly against a backdrop of stars. When she spoke again, her reflection in the glass looked tired. You want to know why humans are so violent? Why we seem to react with disproportionate force to every threat, every insult, every perceived danger? Yes, Krell said simply. Because we're not violent, Maya replied, turning to face the council. Not really. Not compared to what we could be. What you've seen, gentlemen, what you're calling excessive and disproportionate and terrifying, that's us being nice. The silence that followed was the kind usually reserved for spacewalks without tethers. Thim's harmonics cracked. I fail to understand the humor in that statement. There's no humor, Maya said quietly. Let me tell you a story about my species, about Earth, and about exactly what kind of monsters we're all desperately trying not to be. Krell felt his secondary stomach clench. I am suddenly uncertain I wish to hear this story. Too late, Maya said, and her smile was gone now. You called this meeting. Let me explain why humanity is the single most restrained species you'll ever encounter. Maya pulled up a holographic display with a casual gesture that made 3 counselors flinch. Humans moved too quickly, too decisively. Everything was either relaxed or explosive with them. No comfortable middle ground. Earth, she began, rotating the blue-green sphere with one finger, is what we call a death world. And before you interrupt, Counselor Krell, I know your scientists have disputed this classification. Your report claimed, and I quote, moderately challenging biosphere with manageable predation levels. So let me clarify something. The image shifted, zooming into a blue expanse. This is our ocean. Correction, these are our oceans. They cover 71% of our planet's surface. The average depth is 3.5 kilometers. Now, how many of your worlds have apex predators in their oceans? Thim's crystalline structure dimmed thoughtfully. The Presidian homeworld has the gentle reef sweepers. They filter feed and sing during mating season. Quite beautiful, really. Wonderful, Maya said flatly. We have great white sharks. For meters long, 300 teeth arranged in rows, bite force of 18,000 newtons. They've existed largely unchanged for 16 million years because they're already perfect killing machines. And they're not even in our top 10 most dangerous ocean creatures. She swiped the display. A translucent creature appeared, trailing tentacles like poisoned ribbons. Box jellyfish. Venom causes cell death, cardiovascular collapse, and unimaginable pain. Fatality within minutes without treatment. Now here's the fun part. Humans still swim in waters where these exist. For recreation. We call it going to the beach. Krell's mandibles locked together. That seems inadvisable. It gets better. Maya's enthusiasm was somehow more terrifying than her earlier coldness. On land, we have weather patterns that generate rotating columns of air moving at 300 kilometers per hour. We call them tornadoes. Some humans chase them. With cameras. For fun. The display shifted rapidly now, image after image. Hurricanes. Earthquakes. Volcanoes. Tsunamis. Avalanches. Lightning storms. Wildfire season. Flood season. Drought season. We have a season for everything trying to kill us, and we just named them and moved on. But predators, Maya continued, her voice picking up momentum like a building storm. Predators are where it gets interesting. We shared our developmental environment with creatures specifically evolved to hunt us. Cave bears. Saber-toothed cats. Dire wolves. Our ancestors looked at animals that outweighed them 5 to 1. With claws like daggers and jaws that could crush skulls, and decided, I think I'll make that into a coat. Counselor Vin, a Letharian who'd remained silent until now, spoke up in their whispering, multi-tone voice. Surely this is evolutionary exaggeration. Natural selection on challenging worlds creates cautious species. Careful species. Species that avoid danger. Maya laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut. Counselor, humans don't avoid danger. We invented extreme sports. Do you know what that is? Activities we created specifically because our normal lives weren't dangerous enough. We throw ourselves out of aircraft for amusement. We climb mountains that kill 1 in 4 people who attempt the summit. We invented a sport where you strap wood to your feet and slide down frozen mountains at speeds that would be fatal in a crash, and we gave it cute names like skiing and snowboarding. The hologram changed again, showing a muscular human figure. This is our biology. We're persistence predators, counselors. Do you understand what that means? We don't have venom. We're not particularly fast. Our claws are pathetic. But we can run forever. Humans used to hunt prey by just following it, hour after hour, day after day if necessary, until the animal literally collapsed from exhaustion. Then we'd walk up and kill it. With rocks, usually. Krell made a sound like escaping steam. This is monstrous. This is Tuesday, Maya corrected. We're endurance hunters with pattern recognition intelligence and opposable thumbs. We can throw projectiles with accuracy unmatched in the galactic community. Our brain-to-body ratio allows for complex tool creation. And here's the really fun part. Our emotional regulation is tied directly to our adrenal system. She paused, letting that sink in. When humans get scared or angry or threatened, our bodies flood with chemicals that increase strength, reduce pain sensitivity, sharpen focus, and narrow our attention to pure survival. We become faster, stronger, and significantly harder to stop. It's called the fight or flight response, except humans mostly choose fight. Thim's harmonics wavered. Surely your civilization has evolved past such primitive reactions. Have we, though? Maya's smile returned, predatory and thin. Let me tell you about Lieutenant Okoye and those 43 raiders. James is a pacifist, councillors. He coaches youth athletics. He volunteers at refugee centers. He once spent 6 hours talking down a suicidal ensign. James Okoye is, by human standards, an exceptionally gentle, kind, and patient man. The councillors waited, afraid to ask, but unable to look away. Those Kryn raiders opened fire in a cafeteria where children were eating dinner. Maya said softly, dangerously. So James stopped being nice. The holographic display shifted to security footage. The council chamber went absolutely silent. Maya didn't need to narrate. They could all see it. Lieutenant James Okoye, 2 meters of calm professionalism, standing in the cafeteria with a tray of food. The first plasma bolt streaking past a child's head, missing by centimeters. The expression change on Okoye's face, something fundamental shifting behind his eyes. What happened next took 11 seconds. Krell watched as the human moved with a fluidity that shouldn't exist in a species without hydraulic musculature. Okoye used his tray as a projectile, striking one raider hard enough to crack their helmet. He closed the distance to 3 others before they could retarget, using their own weapons as leverage points, breaking arms with precise, economical movements. No wasted energy. No hesitation. The footage showed him picking up a Kryn. The raider had to weigh at least 90 kilos, and throwing them through a reinforced table like a training dummy. Another raider fired point blank. Okoye moved sideways, the bolt missing by millimeters, and delivered a palm strike that sent the attacker airborne into a bulkhead hard enough to leave a dent. Stop, Thim whispered. Please stop the recording. Maya froze the image on Okoye's face. He wasn't snarling or wild-eyed. He looked focused, tired, disappointed. This is what you need to understand, Maya said, her voice cutting through the shocked silence. James didn't lose control. He didn't go berserk or feral or any other primitive descriptor you might apply. He made a choice. A calculated, deliberate choice to end a threat using exactly enough force to ensure those children went home safely. And then, when it was over, he rendered first aid to the raiders. 3 of them survived because James stopped himself from killing them. She let that hang in the air before continuing. Every human in the coalition has that capacity, councillors. Every single one. We're all walking around with the ability to cause tremendous damage, and we choose not to. Every day, every interaction, every moment someone is rude to us, cuts us off in traffic, takes the last coffee pod, we choose restraint. Councillor Vin's whisper was barely audible. Why are you telling us this? This is more terrifying than reassuring. Because you need to understand what nice means for humanity, Maya replied, walking back to her seat, but remaining standing. You think we're violent? You've seen nothing. What you call excessive force, we call holding back. When Isabella Kemp used that cargo loader on the Horthax boarding party, she deliberately targeted non-vital areas. She could have crushed them all in seconds. She didn't. When human security responds to threats, we're operating under rules of engagement that prioritize de-escalation and proportional response. Maya leaned forward, her hands flat on the table. Do you know what humans did to ourselves before we developed those rules? We had wars, councillors. Not border skirmishes or trade disputes. Wars. Conflicts involving millions of combatants, lasting years, consuming entire continents. We developed weapons capable of rendering our planet uninhabitable. We built delivery systems for those weapons that could strike anywhere on Earth within 30 minutes. And then, and this is the important part, we chose not to use them. Krell's voice was barely a whisper. Why? Because we learned, Maya said simply. We learned that our capacity for violence had to be balanced with an equal capacity for mercy, compassion, and restraint. Every human child is taught from infancy that strength means nothing without control. We have martial arts philosophies thousands of years old built entirely around the concept of minimal necessary force. We have laws, ethics, cultural standards, all designed to channel our aggressive instincts into productive directions. She straightened up, suddenly looking every bit as exhausted as Okoye had in that frozen image. When humans joined the coalition, We knew we'd be different. We knew our reactions would seem disproportionate. But here's what you're missing. In every single one of those 612 incidents, humans were responding to initiated aggression. We didn't start those fights. We finished them. Quickly, efficiently, and with remarkable restraint considering what we're actually capable of. Thim's harmonics trembled. You're saying this is humanity being peaceful? I'm saying this is humanity being civilized, Maya corrected. There's a difference. Peace is the absence of conflict. Civilization is choosing not to engage in conflict you could easily win. Every human in coalition space is making that choice constantly. We're surrounded by species who've never had to develop our level of self-control because they never needed it. You don't have our capacity for violence, so you never had to build the frameworks to contain it. She pulled up another image, this one showing a human child gently holding something small and fragile. We teach our kids to be gentle with a phrase, "You don't know your own strength." Because they literally don't. Human children have accidentally injured pets, broken toys, hurt each other during play. Learning to modulate force is a fundamental part of our development. By the time a human reaches adulthood, they've spent 20 years practicing restraint. Krell finally found his voice. What happens if humans stop choosing restraint? The silence that followed was absolute. Maya looked at each counselor in turn, her expression unreadable. Then you'll finally see what human violence actually looks like, she said quietly. And I promise you, counselors, you don't want that. Nobody does. Least of all us. Because we remember our history. We remember what we're capable of when we stop being nice. She gathered her materials, preparing to leave. So the next time you review an incident report about a human using excessive force, remember this conversation. Remember that what you're seeing is restraint. It's control. It's civilization. And be grateful, genuinely grateful, that humanity has chosen to be your allies instead of your example of what happens when deathworld predators stop pretending to be anything else. Maya paused at the door, looking back one final time. We're not violent, counselors. We're terrifyingly good at violence, which is precisely why we work so hard not to be. That's the difference. That's why we're here, integrated and cooperative, instead of out there being something you'd need to quarantine. We chose this. We choose it every day. And all we ask is that you recognize the effort that choice requires. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss. In the tribunal chamber, none of the counselors spoke for a long time. Finally, Krell accessed his console with shaking manipulators and began composing a message to IT. Read simply, recommend immediate approval of human integration protocols. Additional recommendation, never give them a reason to stop being nice. The measure passed unanimously. Somewhere on Outpost 17, Lieutenant James Okoye finished his shift, went home, and played with his daughter, making monster noises while she giggled and called him silly. He was very, very careful not to hold her too tight, because he knew his own strength, and he chose, every single day, to be gentle instead.